We'll kick off, though, with Disney. Well-covered story last night, Jim.
Yeah.
The long-term sub target remains unchanged, but not adding $12 million a month, that's for sure.
No, and look, the problem with Disney is how convoluted the story is. There was a conference at Goldman Cornucopia where Benjamin Swinburne, analyst I regard as being terrific, from Morgan Stanley.
Going to join us later.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's good because you can ask him. He did lower the forecast of how many people would sign up for Disney Plus. Said it was the low end, and that's basically what happened. Swinburne adjusted his numbers; others didn't. I don't know why people are not focused on two things: the new content that's coming from Disney Plus and the theme parks, which are doing quite well and will do much better. I think that people are being short-sighted to sell it. My Chapel Trust owns it. I was eviscerated on Twitter this morning for being stupid to buy Disney, even though, of course, I bought it at 109. And I come back and say, David, that the reports of Disney's death are greatly exaggerated.
And I'm sure you're correct in saying that for the longer term, but that doesn't mean there isn't going to be a reaction in the market. And I think there is one key thing here that investors are reminded of yet again when it comes to these direct-to-consumer businesses, which have become really the heart and soul of so many of these content companies. The key thing that we measure them on, whether or not you want to talk about, in the case of Disney, box office, or even more importantly, theme parks, it's still going to be DTC. They're really expensive. They're really
That's a great
costs
point.
An awful lot of money. And Swinburne himself, in this note this morning, says we expect Disney to ramp up Disney Plus content spend from about $3.5 billion in fiscal year 21 to likely $10 billion or more by fiscal year 24. They had a $9 billion forecast previously. And it's important to reiterate, yes, we're going to measure their Discovery and the Discovery Warner tie-up and Paramount Plus and on and on. But, man, it costs a lot of money.
No, I think that's a great point. I think people... I'm not saying I was surprised by this, okay? And by the way, the stock moved up 5 earlier this week. It's some sort of, ridiculous belief that everything's all well. But I think that you mentioned at the beginning that I had a longer-term view. And I think that once they spend this, it'll be similar to what happened to Netflix. Netflix spent a lot. When you found out they were going to spend a lot, Carl, you basically said to yourself, I got to sell Netflix. And then they spent, and it worked. And then you get a Squid Game. Now, I don't think Disney's going to have something like a Squid Game, Bambi game, Squid Game. But there is a genuine belief. Oh, by the way, I think that Musk played us and was the Squid Game over stock.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
Yeah, kind of the tug of war scene. But I just tomorrow. Look, I just think that Disney Plus is going to be very good. It's going to have fresh content. Actually starts tomorrow with Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. But which, by the way, has a Chinese villain. So therefore, the Chinese won't show it.
I mean, you're getting to a point, Jim, a very important one, which is Squid Game's not going to be on Disney. They're not going to have that kind of show.
No, I know.
And does that limit the TAM? Barclays today argues, and by the way, they take a victory lap because they downgraded last month. They argue that they've had plenty of content. They've had plenty of content all year long, and maybe relying too much on their franchises.
Well, look, I think every one of the objections is for real. I didn't hear anything other than the fact that maybe you should have realized some of these things after I love that cornucopia, the Communicopia conference. You used to go to that.
I used to, yes, the old Goldman Sachs Communicopia. Well, they haven't had it in person in a couple of years, so it's kind of hard to go.
Right, that's true. That's true.
You can go to the office, but you can't go to the conference.
You can't go to Communicopia.
Yeah, you can go remotely, yeah.
But look, I'm going to stick with it. I've been working with Jeff Marks, the research director for the club, and we just think, look, take a little longer view. The consumer's going to come back. Jungle Cruise. I mean, I've got lots of things that make me feel like that this is iconic, and you don't give up on iconic. Even though I do wish that they had something like Squid Game, and not the marble scene. That was just unfair.
Well, Disney has set parameters for the type of content they're going to put out, and it's not going to be something that violent, clearly. Chapek talked about some of the long-term growth drivers that Jim's referring to. Take a listen to this.
We reaffirmed our guidance of 230 to 260 million households, and we believe that there are two primary drivers of that growth. First one is going to be the expansion into new markets. We're going to double the number of markets that Disney Plus is in international territories by fiscal year 2023. And the second component is obviously going to be new, fresh content across all of our wonderful Disney franchises.
One interesting point was his mention about the Disney metaverse.
Yes.
Tom Rogers this morning saying, why would you emphasize that when you've got real-world experiences that are unparalleled? By the way, theme park revenue, 2x.
Yeah, I mean, theme parks obviously opening up in a very more significant way, and the fact that we've got now 5 to 11 being vaccinated is going to be even more significant. As you hear the applause build here, I believe we're going to have some celebration for obviously the holiday today. But the metaverse could apply to a lot of their different properties, Jim. And it was interesting listening to Chapek discuss this sort of blending of physical and digital realities.
I think there are two things that I like about this. One is I like Genie. I like the idea of a 360 Disney customer. You go in and they remind you when you walk in that, hey, don't forget you want to watch Eli and Peyton. You want to have dinner reservations as you had before at one of the different features. And David, let's just focus on this for a second. I genuinely think that the metaverse and Disney are made for each other. And I wonder what would have happened had the metaverse, had Mark Zuckerberg not stolen the thunder of the metaverse.